What is enlightenment? The ultimate goal of life in Buddhism. Buddhism, at its heart, is a path to understanding the nature of life and finding lasting peace. It doesn't demand blind faith or rigid dogma, but invites us to explore our own minds and hearts. The Buddha once said, "Let go of the past, let go of the future, and let go of the present. With a mind free from all attachments, you will cross over the river of existence. Like a lotus untouched by the muddy water, so will you rise above and remain unsoiled." This simple yet profound teaching encapsulates the essence of Buddhism. In a world often dominated by distractions and worries, this wisdom is a reminder that peace is always within reach, right here, right now. Through the teachings of the Buddha, we learn that enlightenment is not a distant goal reserved for the chosen few. Instead, it's a deeply personal and accessible journey, rooted in mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. By understanding these principles, we can transform our daily lives and discover a path toward freedom from suffering. Enlightenment, or Bodhi in Sanskrit, is the cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy and practice. It means awakening to the true nature of reality. But what does that really mean? At its heart, enlightenment is about seeing things as they truly are, free from illusions and misunderstandings. It's not some mystical state reserved for monks or saints. It's something everyone can experience through understanding and practice. One way to think of enlightenment is as a kind of awakening. Imagine you're asleep, dreaming that you're trapped in a burning house. You feel fear, panic, and despair. Then suddenly, you wake up and realize it was just a dream. The fear disappears because you understand it wasn't real. Enlightenment is like waking up from the dream of life, the illusions of self, suffering, and attachment. The Buddha often described enlightenment as freedom from suffering, dukkha. In his first teaching, he said, "I teach only two things, suffering and the end of suffering." This is the essence of enlightenment, understanding the causes of suffering and finding liberation from it. To grasp this, we turn to the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is that suffering exists. Life is full of ups and downs, joys and pains, but no matter how much we try to hold on to happiness, it's fleeting. The second truth is that suffering has a cause: craving, tanha. We cling to things we like, push away things we don't like, and constantly chase after what we think will make us happy. This creates a cycle of dissatisfaction. The third truth offers hope. There is an end to suffering. This state is called Nirvana, a complete liberation from the cycle of craving and suffering. The fourth truth lays out the path to reach it: the Noble Eightfold Path. Enlightenment isn't just about intellectual understanding. It's a transformation of the heart and mind. The Buddha emphasized two qualities essential for this awakening: wisdom, prajna, and compassion, karuna. Wisdom helps us see the truth, and compassion guides us to act with kindness. Together they create a balance that leads to enlightenment. The Buddha's words remind us that this path is accessible to all. Just as the great ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, so too does my teaching have one taste, the taste of liberation. What happens when someone becomes enlightened? They attain nirvana, the ultimate goal in Buddhism. The word nirvana literally means blowing out, like extinguishing a flame. But what is being blown out? It's not life itself, but the fires of greed, hatred, and ignorance, the causes of suffering. Nirvana is often misunderstood. Some think it means ceasing to exist or losing all sense of individuality. But that's not what the Buddha taught. He described nirvana as the highest peace, a state beyond all dualities like pleasure and pain, good and bad, or self and other. It's the end of the cycle of birth and death, samsara, where the mind is completely free from attachment. The Buddha compared samsara to a wheel turning endlessly. As long as we're driven by craving and ignorance, we're stuck on this wheel, experiencing birth, aging, sickness, and death over and over again. Nirvana is stepping off the wheel. In one teaching, the Buddha explained, "There is, monks, an unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, unconditioned. If there were not this unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, unconditioned, no escape from the world of the born, originated, created, and conditioned would be discerned." Nirvana isn't a place you go to, like heaven. It's a state of being, a profound sense of freedom and clarity. When the Buddha reached enlightenment, he described it as being awake, fully aware, and at peace. It's also important to dispel the fear that nirvana means losing your individuality. The Buddha never taught that enlightenment is annihilation. Instead, he said it's like a flame going out because the fuel has been used up. The flame doesn't disappear into nothingness. It simply ceases because the conditions for it no longer exist. People often ask, is nirvana achievable for ordinary people? The Buddha's answer was a resounding yes. He taught that liberation is possible for anyone willing to walk the path. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This practice of mindfulness is a key to unlocking nirvana. How do you get there? Enlightenment may sound like a lofty goal, but the Buddha laid out a clear and practical path for everyone. It's called the Noble Eightfold Path, a step-by-step guide to end suffering and attain liberation. The Eightfold Path is divided into three main areas of training: ethics, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna. Each of these supports the others, creating a well-rounded practice. Ethics is the foundation. It includes right speech, right action, and right livelihood. These principles encourage us to live in harmony with others, avoid harm, and act with kindness. For example, right speech means speaking truthfully and avoiding gossip or hurtful words. It's not just about being good, it's about creating the conditions for a peaceful mind. Next is concentration. This involves right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Here, the focus is on training the mind through meditation. Mindfulness helps us stay present and aware, while concentration allows us to go deeper into states of calm and insight. The Buddha often said, "Meditation brings wisdom. Lack of meditation leaves ignorance. Know well what leads you forward and what holds you back, and choose the path that leads to wisdom." Finally, we have wisdom, right view, and right intention. Wisdom means understanding the nature of reality, especially the truths of impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. Right intention is about aligning our thoughts with compassion and letting go of harmful desires. Walking the path isn't about perfection. The Buddha taught that progress happens step by step. Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise one, gathering it little by little, fills oneself with good. Meditation plays a central role in this process. It's not just about sitting quietly. It's about observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations to understand their impermanent and interconnected nature. When we see clearly, we let go of clinging and start to experience true freedom. This path is open to everyone, regardless of background or experience. The Buddha's teachings are like a map. He once said, "You yourselves must strive. The Buddhas only point the way." This reminds us that enlightenment isn't something handed to us. It's something we discover through our own effort and insight. In the end, the path to enlightenment is about transforming how we see and interact with the world. It's not about escaping life, but engaging with it fully, with wisdom and compassion. As the Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." To understand the path to enlightenment, it's essential to look at the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, who first realized this profound truth. His journey is not just a historical account. It's a timeless guide for anyone seeking freedom from suffering. Siddhartha was born a prince in what is now Nepal, around 12,500 years ago. He grew up surrounded by luxury, shielded from the harsh realities of life. Yet, despite his comforts, he felt an inner emptiness. One day, he ventured beyond the palace walls and encountered what are now known as the Four Sights. An old man, a sick man, a dead man, and a wandering ascetic. These experiences awakened him to the universal truths of aging, illness, death, and the possibility of liberation through renunciation. Determined to find a solution to suffering, Siddhartha left his royal life and embarked on a spiritual quest. For 6 years, he practiced severe asceticism, believing that self-denial might bring enlightenment. But he found that extreme deprivation was no more effective than indulgence. This realization led him to discover the middle way, a balanced approach between self-indulgence and self-mortification. Finally, at the age of 35, Siddhartha sat under a Bodhi tree in deep meditation, vowing not to rise until he attained the truth. For days, he faced inner battles with doubt, fear, and temptation, often symbolized as the demon Mara. But through mindfulness and unwavering determination, he overcame these obstacles and realized profound insights. Dependent origination. Paticca samuppada. Everything arises and ceases based on conditions. This understanding dismantled the illusion of a permanent, unchanging self. The Four Noble Truths. The truths of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation. The nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. He saw that clinging to impermanent things is the root of suffering. Upon awakening, he exclaimed, "Through many a birth in samsara have I wandered in vain, seeking the builder of this house of life. But now I have seen you, house builder. You shall not build this house again. Its rafters are broken, its ridgepoles shattered. My mind has attained the unconditioned." Siddhartha had become the Buddha, the awakened one. For the next 45 years, he dedicated his life to teaching others the path he had discovered. His enlightenment was not just a personal achievement, but a universal truth meant to be shared. The Buddha's awakening under the Bodhi tree reminds us that enlightenment is not a divine gift, but a result of effort, wisdom, and compassion. It is a possibility for anyone willing to walk the path. Enlightenment might seem like a lofty goal, but the Buddha's teachings are deeply practical and can be integrated into everyday life. The path isn't about escaping the world. It's about transforming how we live within it. One of the simplest ways to start is by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment with an open and non-judgmental attitude. The Buddha emphasized mindfulness as the foundation of awakening. Mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The mindful do not die. The heedless are as if dead already. You don't need to sit on a cushion for hours to practice mindfulness. You can begin with small steps. Be fully present when you're eating, noticing the taste, texture, and smell of your food. Observe your breath for a few moments during the day, especially when you feel stressed. Practice mindful listening by giving your full attention to someone without interrupting or planning your response. Another way to bring enlightenment closer is through compassion. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not just about wisdom, but also about cultivating a kind heart. Small acts of kindness, helping a neighbor, forgiving someone, or simply offering a smile, create the conditions for a peaceful mind. In daily life, attachments are one of the biggest obstacles to inner peace. We cling to things, people, and ideas, believing they'll make us happy. But the Buddha taught that true happiness comes from letting go. You only lose what you cling to. This doesn't mean giving up everything you love. It means approaching life with a sense of balance and non-attachment. For example, enjoy your relationships, but recognize that clinging to them as a source of identity or security can lead to suffering. Work hard and take pride in your achievements, but don't tie your self-worth to success or failure. Equanimity, or staying balanced in the face of life's ups and downs, is another key practice. The Buddha compared it to being like a mountain, unshaken by the winds. When you develop equanimity, you can navigate challenges with calm and clarity. Above all, remember that the path to enlightenment is gradual. The Buddha himself said, "Little by little, a person becomes good, as a water pot is filled by drops of water." Even small steps, like pausing to take a deep breath or offering a kind word, bring you closer to awakening. While the core teachings of Buddhism remain the same, different traditions offer unique perspectives on enlightenment. These differences reflect the diverse ways people connect with the teachings and adapt them to their cultural and spiritual needs. In Theravada Buddhism, enlightenment is often seen as an individual journey. The ultimate goal is to become an arhat, someone who has fully awakened and escaped the cycle of birth and death. This tradition emphasizes personal responsibility, meditation, and following the Noble Eightfold Path with diligence. The Buddha's words inspire this focus. Be a lamp unto yourself. Work out your liberation with diligence. In Mahayana Buddhism, the focus expands to include the liberation of all beings. The ideal is not just to become an arhat, but a bodhisattva, someone who delays their own enlightenment to help others. Compassion takes center stage, as seen in the Bodhisattva vow. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Mahayana teachings also introduce the concept of Buddha nature, the idea that all beings already have the potential for enlightenment within them. The path is about uncovering this innate wisdom and compassion. In Vajrayana Buddhism, often associated with Tibetan Buddhism, the approach is more direct and advanced. Vajrayana practitioners use rituals, mantras, and visualization practices to accelerate the path to enlightenment. This tradition views the mind as inherently pure and teaches methods to transform ordinary experiences into opportunities for awakening. While these perspectives differ, they all point to the same truth. The potential for enlightenment is within everyone. The traditions simply offer different tools and approaches to uncover it. No matter which path resonates with you, the Buddha's teachings remind us of the ultimate goal. As the lotus rises above muddy water, so does the wise one rise above the world, unsoiled by its impurities. The path to enlightenment is not without its challenges. It's a journey that requires effort, patience, and persistence. Along the way, many misconceptions can arise, and understanding these pitfalls is an essential part of progress. One common misunderstanding is viewing enlightenment as a mystical or otherworldly state. People sometimes think it's an extraordinary experience that only special individuals can achieve. But the Buddha emphasized that enlightenment is accessible to everyone. The one who practices diligently, whether monk or householder, will taste the freedom of the deathless. Enlightenment is not about gaining superhuman abilities or escaping reality. It's about seeing reality clearly and being free from the illusions that cause suffering. This clarity can be experienced in simple, everyday moments, like observing the impermanence of a sunset or letting go of anger during a conflict. Another challenge is the risk of spiritual materialism, becoming attached to the idea of enlightenment itself. Some people strive for awakening as if it's a prize to be won or a status to be achieved. The Buddha warned against this kind of clinging. Clinging to views, even the view of enlightenment, is like holding onto a raft after crossing the river. Let it go. Doubt is another obstacle. On the path, it's natural to question whether you're making progress or if enlightenment is even possible. The Buddha addressed this by encouraging faith grounded in personal experience. Do not believe in something just because it is spoken by tradition. Do not believe in anything just because it is found written in religious books. But after observation and analysis, when you find that it agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of all, then accept it. Spiritual practice can also bring discouragement, especially when progress feels slow. The key is to remember that the path is gradual. The Buddha likened it to cultivating a field. Just as a farmer clears the field of weeds, sows seeds, and tends to the crops patiently, so too does the practitioner cultivate the mind step by step. It's important to approach challenges with compassion for yourself. Mistakes and setbacks are not failures. They're opportunities to learn and grow. Finally, one of the biggest misconceptions is believing that enlightenment means escaping life's difficulties. The Buddha never promised a life without problems. Instead, he taught that enlightenment equips us to face challenges with wisdom and equanimity. It's about transforming how we respond to the inevitable ups and downs of life. In today's fast-paced and often stressful world, the pursuit of enlightenment might seem outdated or irrelevant. But the Buddha's teachings are more relevant than ever. At its core, enlightenment addresses universal questions. Why do we suffer? How can we find lasting peace and happiness? Modern life is full of distractions. Social media, work pressures, and the constant stream of information can leave us feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. The Buddha's teachings offer a way to cut through this noise. Mindfulness, for example, helps us stay grounded in the present moment, reducing anxiety and improving focus. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This is a reminder that true happiness doesn't come from external achievements or possessions, but from cultivating a calm and compassionate mind. Enlightenment also addresses the deeper existential questions that many people face today. In a world filled with uncertainty and change, the teachings on impermanence, anicca, remind us that everything is in flux. Rather than fearing change, we can embrace it as a natural part of life. Compassion, another cornerstone of the Buddha's path, is crucial in modern times. The interconnected nature of today's world means our actions affect others on a global scale. By practicing kindness and empathy, we contribute to a more harmonious and compassionate society. Moreover, enlightenment is not just a personal journey. It has the potential for collective transformation. Imagine a world where people act with wisdom, mindfulness, and compassion. This vision aligns with the Buddha's teaching. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Incorporating the principles of enlightenment into daily life doesn't require drastic changes. Small practices, like pausing to breathe deeply during stressful moments, listening with full attention, or reflecting on impermanence, can have a profound impact. The Buddha's path isn't about escaping modern life. It's about living fully within it, with clarity and compassion. Enlightenment is not a distant goal, but a daily practice of waking up to the truth of the present moment. Enlightenment may seem like a grand and distant ideal, but the Buddha's teachings remind us that it begins with simple steps. It's about understanding the nature of suffering, cultivating wisdom and compassion, and transforming how we relate to the world. The journey to enlightenment is deeply personal, yet universally accessible. It doesn't require renouncing daily life or becoming a monk. As the Buddha said, an awakened mind can be cultivated anywhere, in the forest, in the city, or in the marketplace. This path is a gradual unfolding. Some days you might feel inspired, while other days it may seem like you're not making progress. But every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to awakening. The Buddha's words are a reminder of this. However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act upon them? Ultimately, enlightenment is not just about reaching a destination. It's about how you live the journey. It's about being fully present, acting with kindness, and seeing clearly. The teachings of the Buddha are a guide, but the path is yours to walk. As we close, let's reflect on the Buddha's encouragement. As a lotus flower is born in water, grows in water, and rises out of water to stand above it unsoiled, so I, born in the world, raised in the world, having overcome the world, live unsoiled by the world. May these teachings inspire you to walk the path with courage, patience, and an open heart. Enlightenment is not just a distant goal. It is the journey of waking up to the truth of life here and now.